Hello, welcome back to Wholehearted Homemaking. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. I wanted to share a quick recap of our first week back at homeschooling. My name is Heather. If you're new here, I am mama to 7, ages 2 all the way to 14, and this is our 8th year homeschooling. We use a primarily Charlotte Mason method in our homeschool, but there are bits of classical tradition and also just a little bit of other things as we need for each individual child. And today I wanted to share a quick recap of our first week and share a free resource. So make sure if you are interested in a free resource to stick around to the end where I share that with you. So recap of our first week. Overall, it was a really good first week. We got all the things done that we really intended to do and only had a few shortcomings. I have children in 1st grade, 4th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 9th grade, as well as a 2 and 4-year-old tagging along. And so because of that, we have a lot of moving parts, and I knew that I was cramming a little bit too much in to try to make it work this year. And so this weekend I am working on kind of figuring out how to give us some more space. And so today I wanted to tell you some of my successes and some of my failures for the week. So we'll start with the successes. We were able to have our Bible time almost every day. One day I woke with a migraine, and so that got moved to a later time in the day. But we were able to start with our Bible, Koinonia, which I share in another video. And it is a very important part of our day because it's when we read the Bible, where we discuss what we read some kind of Christian literature. This week we just focused on Little Pilgrim's Progress, but usually we add in a Youth with a Mission, YWAM publishing biography about a Christian hero, and so we hope to do that starting next week. And then we just kind of work through different memory verses and hymns as we study. I do have a free printable hymn resource in my Teacher Pay Teacher store, which is linked below. If you're looking for a year's worth of hymns that you can just print and use in your home, that is there. And also I have Spanish hymns, which is also our chosen second language of study, and I have found hymns to just be super helpful way to introduce pronunciation and vocabulary. And so we choose 3 hymns for the entire year, plus a seasonal Christmas and a seasonal Easter hymn in Spanish that we learn. And it has been a wonderful blessing to add it to our days. And then we also have been learning Jesus Loves Me in multiple languages, which is also available in the store. But I will be updating that again here soon with a few more languages. My kids had a passion to learn Jesus Loves Me in as many languages as possible, and I have been on a mission to try to make that happen. But that makes up our Koinonia time, and that is the most important time of our day for me. It's when we take time to pray. It's when we all gather together and have a nice morning time together. After that, we kind of have this pattern of the kids go back and do their home blessings, like clean up the kitchen things, and then move on to doing their independent work while I get some housework done and work with the little kids. And then we have a morning time, then we have math time, lunch, and then we're kind of used to having free afternoons. And I knew that for me personally, I don't do well in the afternoons. I start to crash. And not just that I need a nap or anything, I just can't focus on sit-down schoolwork as much. I can do all kinds of things outside. I can do things in the kitchen. The sit-down focus is just not there for me in the afternoons, and the same for my kids, especially when it's beautiful weather outside. And so that is one thing that is a failure this week. We were able to do it all week, but it was hard, and it wasn't the peace and joy that we wanted. We did start a new book that my kids are super excited for. I should go. So the book we started is Beneath the Swirling Sky by Carolyn Lou. Oh, I'm so sorry. Here's her name. I cannot pronounce that. And it is very exciting. It's along the lines of Book Wonders. If you've read that, only with artists. We're only a little bit in, and my teen was like, "Oh no, a family read aloud. I don't want to do that." Okay, she wasn't that bad, but she did not want to do it because sometimes I do choose books for younger kids that she's already read. To be fair, she's a bookworm, and it's hard to find books she hasn't already read. But we started this one, and she is hooked. And so this has been great. So for their afternoons, they have a quiet time from 2 to 3, roughly. And then at 3 o'clock, we have a snack, and I read to them. And I was hoping to do more school work with them during that time, but it's just not conducive for our family. I've kind of trained them already to have free time in the afternoon, and I feel really bad taking it away. So for now, we're gonna change up the afternoon so that this is what we do for school in the afternoon. And then they can finish any individual work they need to. But this has been a huge blessing. Other success was this rolly carts. You've seen them everywhere. I've used them in a couple different ways. We don't have a lot of space. It kind of is a pain, and it's a little rickety. But in years past, I gave each child a shelf, and they put their schoolwork on it. Kind of became chaos, and I had to constantly remind them to clean it, and I did not enjoy that. So this year, instead, I took it over as, this is Mama's cart. We also toyed with the idea of an art cart, as many see, and I love that idea. But I have a 2-year-old boy and a 4-year-old girl, and I don't think there's an amount of training I can keep them from the paint and scissors and things like that. And early on in my motherhood career, I had a haircutting fiasco where the 4-year-old cut the 3-year-old's hair, because it's better to cut someone else's hair than your own. And so I'm a little afraid of having art supplies just willy-nilly. But I now have it set up so that on the top I have kind of our morning time looping items, which is another thing that went really well, is just kind of looping through our different books. So I don't have to get through the whole stack every morning time. I get through as many as I can. Then the next time we have morning time, we go back to where we left off. With the exception of Spanish, I always move it to the second spot so that every time we have a morning time, we are coming back to Spanish. The other thing that went really well is having theme days. The only thing is I have too much. And so I have kind of two kind of academy focused days. These are more of our focused history and science days, geography, things like that. And then I have more fun, free-for-all kind of days, which I was calling art and nature, but I think I'm going to combine them all into one and make them a loop because they're not ones that we necessarily have to do every week. If we get to it twice a month, I would be happy, and that includes, I know some people are going to say no, but it includes Book of Marvels. It includes some of our nature studies, our drawing and art lessons. I have these really great little books from Chicky and Rue, which go through some different art lessons. I added some extra paper in there for them to do it themselves. And so if we only touch that once every other week, I'm okay with that. Same with Paper Sloyd, which is a handicraft we are working on. And so we're going to have that just be one day instead of 2 days and loop through those subjects as well. Then the other thing I was doing is, because I have older kids, there's some subjects that I need to do with just the older kids and not the littles. And I'm still working on finding the perfect time for that. I was doing it in the afternoons, but again, like I said, that was tricky because then they really have no free time. And I don't want that for my kids. I really want them to have free time. My middle school and high schooler do have afternoon work that they work on independently to finish up, but I just can't do that to some of my younger ones. And so the afternoon subjects that I'm trying to figure out where to put them would include Plutarch, Shakespeare, which I do with grades 4 and up, and science, grammar, and Latin, Greek roots, which I do with my 4th through 8th grader. My senior, praise the Lord, no. My freshman does that on her own. And then with my freshman, I do a few readings with her, as well as work on grammar with her independently. And so I have these, like, what I call collectives, and I've got to figure out where to fit those in. But I'm thinking if I get rid of my nature art day and combine them into one, then I can make the other day I work with the small group collectives. I'm still praying about how exactly to make that work, but I think that's what we're going to try the second week. And really, that's why I came on in this video, is to share with you that your first week doesn't have to be picture perfect. Your first 2 weeks, I would even say up to your first month, is a lot of learning, especially if you are a newer homeschool parent. You're figuring out what works for you, what works for your kids. Some kids thrive really early in the morning, some need in the afternoon, some schedules need to change, and it always changes based on your different seasons of life. Like when you have a newborn, life is different. When you have all older kids, it's a lot different. When you do have the wide range, it is a little trickier, and it's not bad, but it's sometimes hard. And you just have to embrace that, and that's part of why we do a little more free time, because we do have a busy schedule. We're a full-time ministry family. We have a lot of ministry events, especially in the fall. I have to have time to work on a lot of different ministry things. I have to have time to do this small business that I'm trying to start here. And then I have all the homemaking things as well. So I need to have that time. And my homeschooling schedule has to reflect that. But at the same time, I am first and foremost a mama and a wife. And so I have to make time for them the priority. And that has looked different at different times. There was a time where my husband was working a split shift in the middle of the night. So mornings were not his. We went out and did things in the mornings so that we could let him sleep. There were times where my husband worked from 6 a.m. and didn't come home till 10 or 11. And I felt like a solo parent for a long time. And that's just the season we were in. So we had to change how we went about our days. And homeschooling is the same thing. It's just another thing you add into your day. But the relationships with your children is first and foremost. And I wanted to share this quote from Sarah McKenzie. If you haven't read Teaching from Rest, it's one I read almost every year. But she had this quote in here that I wanted to share. And it says, "What if, instead of trying to make the most of our time, we worked harder at savoring it? What if we were more intentional and lavish with our time and more detached from our checklists?" And so that is something that I have been really chasing, is this peace in the home. And Nancy Kelly is known for saying, keep cutting back until you have peace. And so that's kind of my philosophy. I fill our schedule full. This is my teacher mindset. You always have more than you can get to. Planned, but then I cut back as needed. So like this week, we're starting these first 6 weeks focused on French Revolution, and we were hoping to read a biography by Catherine the Great, about Catherine the Great. But it was, as I read the first chapter, I was like, this would be a good individual book. It is not a good read aloud book, and it's losing the interest of my kids. So I chucked it. We aren't going to read that again. However, In Search of Honor has been very exciting, and my kids are loving it. And so we're going to keep reading it. And I'm okay with making cuts mid-year. I don't do it willy-nilly, but you have to kind of gauge your crowd and know. And so just be encouraged that the first couple weeks are a lot of shifting and changing. Don't laminate that schedule yet. Make it so that it is flexible and that you can work things out. And that's one of the things I love is about homeschooling, is that I can do that. In a public school or a traditional school setting, you're kind of set to a certain schedule, and you can't really be too flexible with a lot of that. And I am very grateful that when I did teach kindergarten in a private school, that they actually did provide that flexibility, because they didn't let you use a curriculum. You had to create your own course of study, and that really set me up for success to be able to homeschool, because I know to be flexible, because there are some days that are hard and some days are good. And the week before Christmas is not the time to do anything big and amazing in maybe your science lesson, unless it's Christmas related, you know? And so I am able to, as a homeschooler, be flexible with my schedule. So I wanted to encourage you that here I am in my 8th year, and I went in saying, this is too much. I know this is too much. But I tried it for a week. We got it done. See if I can find my planner here. This is our Cooper Nest planner. And you can see we got it done. But there was peace, but there wasn't a lot of joy. And so I know I need to go back and cut some things out, and I'm okay with that. That was my plan. There's one thing that's specific that I wanted to share today is recitation. And I love recitation, and it's beautiful. We've tried it a couple different ways in our home. And this week I purposely didn't include it, mostly because the first version I printed was way too tiny a print, I was informed by my children. And secondly, because we needed to focus on a few other things. This is something we have down pat. Now, recitation, we tried for years doing it all together, and that works for some people. But I have a mildly dyslexic child, and it really shows through when she reads aloud. So that's hard. Then I have 2 who are like exceptional speakers, and so they get frustrated with anybody who slightly messes them up. And so they like to do it in an individual setting. So what I do is I assign a different recitation each day, and they have to come and find me during their free time and say it to me. And at the end of the day, I track down anybody who forgot, which is usually my high schooler. But not because she doesn't want to, it's just low on her totem pole. And so what I have in my Teacher Pay Teacher store for free is some recitation choices. these are kind of random. We've done all the popular choices, and so now I chose one based on kind of what we're studying and talking about as a family. And they say fall, but that's just because there are fall recitations. They are not fall themed. But you can find them on there. Also on the blog, I go into a lot more detail today about what is recitation. It really is the art of beautifully speaking. But recitation is a way to get that kind of speech credit for your older kids, but also to help your children with reading aloud, noticing punctuation, pronunciation, volume, and different things. You're not going to sit there with a rubric. Well, you could, but you don't need to. And so like I would let my child read, and maybe they made 5 mistakes, and I'll correct 1 or 2. So in the packet, you'll find multiple of the same ones. And I printed this before I updated it, but on them I have what form they're for. So for form 1, I'm only going to read 1 to 6 verses. So this is for my first grader. She can't read yet, so I'm going to go and do repeat after me style with her. If she was in 3rd grade, she would be able to read this herself. Then I have this next. It's a little bit longer. I aim for about 12 verses, and that is for my form 2. So that'll be 3rd-ish or 4th through 6th, really, is what you want to hand on. Then I have my 7th and 8th, which is form 3, which theirs is generally a little bit longer. I don't know that I really stretched it out too much for them, but you're aiming for about 20. And then the same for your high schooler. They're supposed to have multiple selections. I don't. I just give them 1, and I try to make it a little longer. And so you can see hers is 2 pages. And then, so that would be, so Monday they all come and tell me their Old Testament recitation. Tuesday they come and tell me their New Testament. And Wednesday they come and tell me their Psalms. And then Thursday or Friday, because we're kind of loosey-goosey with those, they have a poetry. Now, we sometimes have done poetry. We've done Shakespeare. We've done sonnets. We've done government. They had to, what did they have to read to me? Oh, the preamble to the Constitution. We did that last year when we were studying Constitution. So our Thursday, Friday recitation, it kind of varies depending on our time. But I have fall poems, and you can see this. This is also free in my Teacher Pay Teacher store and on the blog. And this is, now we are 6, so my 6-year-old will be doing this. So I always try to have a 6-year-old do that poem. So not really fall related. Then you have Autumn Fires. And then some of these are fall and some of them are not. They are just kind of based on what we are studying. My children each choose their own poet, and then as a family we are studying Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, and so they will say whatever the poem is. So my 6-year-old, we're going to come together, we're going to do repeat after me. About by the 2nd, 3rd, maybe 4th week, she can tell me the whole thing by herself. This is something we use for 12 weeks straight. And then we'll switch, okay? So they're going to say it a lot. My goal isn't that they memorize it. My goal is that they can read it and say it well. However, most children do tend to memorize it. In the spring, we host a Charlotte Mason family picnic where the kids can all show off their skills and things they've learned, and a lot of the children choose to do a recitation or poem. Because of that, my oldest daughter, who loves to read, loves poetry, and is very well-versed, she will choose a lot longer sections. And so for our very first one, she was inspired to say the entire Lady of Shalott. And she did an amazing job. And so this is a time where you can really get your children to stretch their vocabulary, pronunciation, speaking ability, volume, and things like that. But like I said, each time they read it, don't correct every mistake. 1 or 2. Try to keep it a joyful project, and it shouldn't take even 5 minutes for them to do this, okay? This is very minimal time in your day. But recitation is something that we have done successfully for many, many years now. We've even done it in our foreign language and other subjects. Like I said, it's kind of a free-for-all for us once a week, but I highly recommend you check out my blog posts. Also, I believe Nancy Kelly talks about recitation a little bit on Sage Parnassus, and Simply Charlotte Mason, Sonia Schaefer shares about it as well. This is a subject that is quick and easy to do, but reaps so many benefits, especially in the language arts category. So make sure you check that out. All right, thank you so much for watching. I hope that this has helped. I'll try to come back after we've been homeschooling a month and give you another update and let you know how everything is working out. If you have any questions, leave a message below and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you again. Have a blessed day, and let us go forth and strive to serve the Lord and our families wholehearted.